experts say about 130 million girls are denied the human right to education around the world. These girls are faced every day with barriers to education caused by poverty, cultural norms, poor infrastructure, violence, and even fragility. Is this not an abuse of their human rights? A warm welcome to today's edition of Hude Hour right here on the Hude Network. I am Blessing again.
And I am Jennifer again, so thank you for joining.
Well, today on Hude Hour, our stories revolve around girl-child education, examining challenges and initiatives aimed at ensuring every girl has the opportunity to learn and thrive, including 7.6 million girls currently out of school in Nigeria. World Bank approves $700 million in additional financing for Nigeria's AGRL program. UNICEF and the Kenyan government spearhead Let Girls Learn campaign. And finally, girls in Kasai province of DR Congo face difficulties accessing education. Details in a moment. Girl-child education is a cornerstone for societal progress, echoing the sentiment that the development of any society is intricately linked to the education of its girls. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, emphasizes the transformative power of educating girls, recognizing it as a fundamental human right and a driver for sustainable development. Article 26 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has a right to education, and that education shall be directed to the full development of the human personality and the strengthening of respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. In addition, SDG Goal 4 calls for access to quality education for everyone, every gender inclusive.
Despite these bodies of laws around the world, 130 million girls are still out of school, including 32 million of primary school age and 97 million of secondary school age. Globally, primary and secondary school enrollment rates are getting closer to equal for girls and boys, with 90% being male and 89% being female. But while enrollment rates are similar, 2/3 of all countries have reached gender parity in girl-child education.
The question of where exactly the place of girl-child in education and development is around the world is still very much on the lips of many. Let's review these and many more after the break. Thank you for staying tuned. Now let's begin by highlighting girl-child education in Nigeria. UNICEF says about 7.6 million girls are currently out of school. Out of this number, 3.9 million are at the primary level, while 3.7 million are at the junior secondary school level. Shockingly, more than 50% of girls are not attending school at the basic education level. UNICEF reports that between the first and last year of primary school, approximately 1 million girls drop out of school, with 0.6 million dropping out between primary 6 and JSS 1. The Northwest and Northeast regions in Nigeria account for 48% of out-of-school girls. In 10 states, primarily located in the north, the net attendance ratio for girls is below 1.0, indicating a gender disparity in education. However, the gender disparity is decreasing in 15 states. The poorest girls face significant challenges in accessing secondary education, with only 9% attending compared to 81% from the richest quintile. Adolescent fertility rates are high, with 104 births per 1,000 women aged 15 to 19, and there is an increase in fertility rates among 10 to 14-year-olds. The UNICEF states traditional beliefs that prioritize early marriage, poverty, security concerns, and a lack of infrastructure as reasons affiliated with the high rates in the country, while stating the need to invest in girl-child education. Well, today we're talking about girl-child education. Girl-child education, like we said earlier, is a cornerstone for societal development. And if any society has not understood that fact, it means there is a very big problem. Jennifer.
Well, when we're talking about, out of school children, we talked about them being 10.5 million being out of school, and we in Nigeria as at a period chat. And for 7.6 million of them to be girls, I think it's a slap in the face of every Nigerian government leader out there. Because why are we not progressing? Why are we at the back bench watching other countries progress? And look at the reasons why these girls are not in school. They mentioned that 50% come from 50% of girls in Nigeria out of school, with 48%
Coming from the north, east, and northwest.
to Widow. It shows that that particular area have an issue, and we see that these problems look at traditional beliefs, to look at the cultural factors that are holding these girls from from being in school. It's a huge problem because at this stage of of growth, we should not be having such issues. Because why are you telling little girls that they can't be in school? Look at the time they are dropping out, primary six to junior secondary school, to JS1. That's meant to be the time when they go on to become people, and then you're telling them they can't go to school because they are supposed to be in their parents' home.
Well, now we're talking really about the out of school girls in Nigeria, but then, we must not forget the fact that this issue goes as far back as we can remember. As far back as we can remember, girls being girls and boys being boys. There's always been this disparity between when it comes to girls' education, especially in Africa.
Yeah.
Now, girls are perceived or presumed to be homemakers, be at home, learn the basics of growing a family and all of that, while a boy child, is encouraged to go to school. I think these issues way back into the very, very beginning of our culture. Well, reasons like poverty, cultural beliefs, which is very strong if you ask me, and then, some economic barriers and hardships, insecurity, all are reasons. But then there was a beginning. Yeah. And for us to tackle these issues, we have to go down to the very beginning. Now, let's talk about the very beginning, being cultural beliefs and norms, right? If you say you give birth to a girl child and you expect that this girl child should learn how to become a mom, grow up learning how to become a mom, and then you give birth to a boy child and you say, oh, you'll be a man, go to school, it's good that you get educated. It's already a problem. Yes. Now, this problem doesn't just affect, the physical girl child. It affects her mentally and psychologically, if you ask me. Because if I grew up seeing a norm of girls not going to school, and yeah, we also saw cases of teenage pregnancies becoming really, really high. Why? Because you're just growing up into that norm that suggests that you are good for this. You're good for being a mother. You're good for building a family, but then you're not good for being educated. So you see, that is the problem. That is the beginning. And then you go to some other places, you find poverty. Well, should I say that's the beginning and then poverty comes next? Because some people are limited because, yeah, we want our girl to go to school. We understand.
Their boy child to school.
That's
limited resources.
That's what I'm saying. But then some other people are really, really limited, and then they will still choose to send girls instead because of poverty. They give poverty as the reason, even though I believe it can be better. Another big reason has to be insecurity. I mean, was it 2014? Over 200 girls were taken from Chibok in Borno. Up till today, as we speak, some of them are not back. Some of them came back heavily pregnant. Some of them came back not functional, not, able to go into the society. So this affects the woman generally. And then infrastructure, one very, very, very key thing. The issue that surrounds girls not being in school is so massive. And I don't think we can spend a whole year to talk about it.
I mean, it underscores the importance of awareness when it comes to this, because
exactly,
these girls grow up to be women. Most of them have it ingrained in them that they are meant for the home. Their places in the kitchen. They grow up, they become, most of them don't go to school, they become mothers, they give birth to their daughter, and also put that into their daughter that this is how it should be. So aside from the government, stepping up in terms of the poverty situation, we too need to be aware that these cultural norms and practices don't shape us, regardless of whether culture is the way of life. There's something that we should let go of, for progress to be made.
Yes, progress has to be made, especially if we put enlightenment at the forefront. Because in societies, marginalized societies, I mean, yeah, in fact, statistics show that 81% of those living in urban areas are in school, while those that are not in school are largely from the rural areas. So they have lower tendency of attending schools from the rural areas. So this one has to go deep into educating the parents, educating community leaders, showing them the importance of girls being in school. Because you just don't know what girls can do if they're educated.
And now we'll move on to the next news story where the World Bank has approved $700 million in additional financing for Nigeria's Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment, AGILE program. This was stated in a press release made available by the World Bank in September 2023. The release stated that the AGILE program has over the years aimed to improve access to secondary education for girls in targeted states in Nigeria, particularly those who are out of school, married, or have disabilities. According to the press release, the initial 7 AGILE program implementing states of Borno, Ekiti, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, and Plateau have seen an increase in the number of girls in secondary schools from about 900,000 to over 1.6 million. The additional financing aims to expand the program to 11 more states and increase the targeted beneficiaries to over 8.6 million girls. The program also includes efforts to construct community secondary schools, employ more female teachers, and promote energy efficient measures. The AGILE program is a key step in closing the gender gap in Nigeria's economy and ensuring better education and health outcomes for girls. Girl child education.
Yeah.
And I've seen that, the World Bank is making impressive moves, to further tell girls that going to school is a relevant part of their life, because donating $700 million is not a little thing. And then the thing that it entails, what this money comes along with, by looking at renovation of classrooms, by looking at provision of better infrastructure for these girls, I think it's a really good thing. What do you think?
Oh, well, it's a very great initiative from the World Bank. I mean, so many of such initiatives have been on for some time, and the problem for me has to be with implementation.
Okay.
Yes, it's very important that initiatives such as this Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment is on, as it aims to ensure that more girls are in school. In fact, the bright ones are even given scholarships, and then the provision of wash facilities and all of that. It's really, really great, I must say.
Yeah.
But the problem for me has to be with implementation. Of course, we're aware of the fact that girls need to be pushed in different ways to achieve this parity, because apart from the fact that yes, they don't have opportunities, poverty, insecurity, and all of that, some girls are willingly not interested because of how they were, brought up and all of that. And apart from that, also, it can affect their, psychology, if you ask me. And if I'm not comfortable going to school in a certain way, even if you tell me, oh, education is good, I would rather just go do the other easier thing. In fact, there are records of girl pregnancies being high. Why? Because such initiatives, when they come on board, we just hear that, oh, the World Bank has implemented such initiative, the UNESCO has done this, the UNICEF has done that. But then, are they really achieving the sole purpose for which they were, implemented in the first place? I don't think the problem is funding for now. I feel like the problem has to do with accountability from the government, the people that are giving these projects to run.
Yeah.
Because, of course, the World Bank will not just come to a country and then run an initiative on its own. It partners with key people, in the country to ensure it happens, sometimes with with government. So it's important that we use these funds to ensure that girls get back to school, and it improves the the comfort of girls that are in school. Take for example this initiative that has been running since 2020 and will last till 2080, 2028 rather, 2028, not 2080. Will you tell me that by 2028, when we ask, okay, show us the blueprints of this initiative, tell us how was this money spent? Okay, use this to construct classroom, create wash facilities. After doing it, are you maintaining the facilities to ensure that these girls keep coming to school? Because you don't just do things once and you leave them. It's not going to work, because life keep happening day in day out. So we need to keep improving these things day in day out, and then encourage girls physically, emotionally, mentally. We need to do a lot when it comes to girl child education in order to break this gender disparity. Well, it's now time for a very short break. When we come back, the stories continue. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Hude. Now we shift our focus to the educational landscape for girls in Kenya, where strides have been made but challenges still persist. Let's look into the facts that illuminate the uphill journey many young girls face in pursuit of education. In Kenya, the journey towards equitable education faces significant challenges, particularly for girls. Despite strides in promoting education, the stark reality reveals disparity, emphasizing the need for targeted interventions. Facts paint a sobering picture with only 18% of Kenyan women aged 25 and above having completed secondary education. Shockingly, nearly half of the female youth population, that is 15 to 24 years, is considered illiterate, highlighting the urgent need for literacy and education initiatives. The struggle is pronounced in rural areas where 86.5% of girls aged 9 to 13 reside. While 80.8% attend primary school, the transition to secondary education remains a daunting challenge, with only 14.3 enrolling. In concrete terms, this means that out of the 86.5% of girls aged 9 to 13 in rural Kenya attending primary school, only 14.3 can progress to secondary education, underscoring the barriers that hinder the educational journey for a significant portion of young girls. Recognizing the urgency, initiatives such as the Let Girls Learn campaign, spearheaded by the Kenyan government, UNICEF, and Plan International, aim to break these barriers. However, the stark numbers emphasize the need for sustained efforts and innovative solutions. That is the word, sustained efforts and innovative solutions. Because, of course, strides have been made,
but the challenges persist.
Kenya has tried educationally. Is one of the countries. I mean, after Rwanda, if you ask me, I would think Kenya is, next in line. But then there's still a very huge gap when it comes to women education, when it comes to girl child education. It simply means that there is a problem. There's a problem that uh, 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 highlights the fact that Africa, still hold this traditional bias to women or girls' education. Because, I mean, take for instance, it is said that barely 25% of Kenyan women
completed secondary
are called literate. What's the problem? Okay, you feel like, okay, I've done primary school, I've done secondary school, I'm now educated. But no, you need to go ahead, because tell me what you expect when you stop just, at the secondary school level. More has to be done. I mean, nearly half of the female 15 to 24 years old is considered illiterate, and 86.5% of girls aged 9 to 13 attend primary school, and only 14.3% transition to secondary education in rural areas. Look at the disparity. 86.5% attend primary school, but only 14.3% out of the 86.5% progress, to secondary school. They stop at primary education. What's the problem?
But I think it still boils down to what you said, the traditional bias, because a lot of people are being like told that, okay, now that we've sent you to primary school, we've done our part, that they feel like the level of education that a girl should probably reach should be primary education. But it is not so. The world is progressing, and I think everybody should be moving along with it. You can't stop at primary education and expect to have the same benefits that someone that went to university will have, because 25-year-old girls, stopping at secondary school education and then nearly half of them being called illiterate. Is a problem with almost like some African countries too. Most
African
because
countries,
we're still having these issues, and sometimes it has to do with even the girl child herself, because it's not just at what the government can do. It's not just at what your parents can do. What have you been taught? Some of them feel, once I do my university degree, for example, I can stop there. Who is going to marry me when I have higher education? So actually, I think it still boils down to what they have been taught. What society has shown them.
And that's why I'm very interested in saying community leaders should be enlightened. Because look, the highest disparity obviously happens in rural areas.
Yeah.
In the urban areas, you find, okay, maybe their parents are literate and then they're being encouraged to go to school. But in rural areas where the next thing, oh, you have attained puberty. When are you getting married?
Exactly.
When are you starting a family? So these things need to be stopped. I mean, compared to other parts of the world, women stand tall. I mean, women are doing great, but even African women that have been given the opportunity are doing great.
Yeah.
I mean, take for instance, see, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala doing very well, at the World Bank. So it should show that when African women or girls are given the opportunity, and just like we say, It starts from being a girl.
Yeah.
If you're a girl and you don't see a need to be in school, what will make you see the need when you're a woman? So that is why it's important that these things are inculcated in girls from a very, very young age. And then when you encourage them, you give them the reason to go to school, then make provisions, make everything available that will keep them in school and ensure they see their education to the fullest. If we don't do that, I really doubt. I mean, look at us, we're all women. If we didn't go to school, we won't be here.
What position would we find ourselves?
We need to do better.
Well, now let's take a look at the state of girl-child education in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where millions of primary school-aged girls are out of school. According to a recent report by the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, around 3.5 million children are currently out of school in the country. Provinces of Kasai, Kasai Central, and Kasai Oriental are said to have the highest rates of girls out of school. Ongoing conflicts and insecurity in these regions have made it difficult for children, especially girls, to access education. UNICEF also notes cultural norms and practices that prioritize boys' education as contributing factors to the high rates of girls out of school. Poverty is also said to be a major factor in low enrollment and high dropout rates among girls in the country. Despite these challenges, there are initiatives aimed at increasing access to education for girls in the DRC. The government has launched a program to provide free primary education alongside organizations like UNICEF, providing scholarships and incentives for families to send their daughters to school. These efforts also include addressing cultural norms and practices that perpetuate gender inequality. I'm really happy with what I just read because, we've been talking about, the problems, and I see that the problems are the same in almost like all the African
Countries, yeah.
Because we're looking at cultural norms and practices, we're looking at poverty. And it's really important that we understand, first of all, that a girl should be in school.
Yes.
The moment we agree with that, we would have already broken down the cultural norms part. Now focus on poverty. Because cultural norms already prioritizes boys' education. And when they grow up, children they're not dumb. They see these things happening. A boy will see that his sister is staying at home for him to go to school. A boy will see that his sister is being told that she's going to get married so he can miss school. They grow up and it ingrains in them this whole attitude of girls are beneath me. I am educated. And then we look at poverty too. Sometimes poverty puts people in situations whereby they have to choose who they will send to school and they end up choosing the boys.
Yeah.
But then poverty also limits them because from what I just read, you see that children are out of school, but the rate of girls not being in school is higher.
All of these reports basically say one thing to me. The fact that the problems, like you said, in Africa are, really, really similar. Yeah. They are very, very similar. But then, the slight differences will have to be in maybe DR Congo, for example, now prioritizes boys' education more than girls, which is not far-fetched from other African countries. But then when we're looking at Kenya, we saw that basically for them, it's their inability to proceed. The girls just do maybe primary, secondary, and then they stop. In Nigeria, we're faced with cases of kidnap, insecurity that's, reducing girls' tendencies to want to go to school or, stay in school, and a lot other things. So we need to look at the issues from the very, very roots. In DR Congo, also they face similar cases of conflict, but then theirs is slightly different from Nigeria because, DR Congo, even, just recently, they've been in conflict for a very long time. For them, their children mostly, you even see young boys being recruited into child soldering. Why? Because of the conflict going on, because of their natural resources and all of that. And then imagine if young boys that are meant to go to school are being soldiers. Do you think that the girls that have also been, programmed to think that they belong to, the home or grooming the home will now see the need to go to school? Yeah. So these things are interwoven in different but similar ways. And we have to come as a continent to say we need to do better. Because in other continents, it is not so. In other continents, I'm not saying that totally it is completely eradicated in other parts. Exactly. There is a limit, and then there is just this level of higher awareness in some parts. No, I mean, I'm not sure we should compare with some parts of Asia because they may not be really doing well. They will talk of the European continent, talk of the United States. we need to see from other parts of the world, developed countries rather, what are they doing right? What can we do right? How can we get it right? Because if we don't do that, I don't think there will be a way forward.
Yeah.
And we need to just admit and look at the fact that this is a problem, because if we don't see it as a problem in the first place, I don't think we'll see a need for solutions. But luckily, we have seen it as a problem and initiatives have been in place. So we need to now be intentional about ensuring that these initiatives yield positive results.
Yeah.
Well, now we'll go on a very short break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Jennifer Kizito, and we shall be talking on girl child education and highlighting some of the key reasons why girls may not be comfortable to be in school and why girls need to be encouraged to be in school. Please stay with us.
The first season of Timeline is on. The journey so far has been amazing and impactful. The world needs change agents. The world needs me, you, and all of us. Join me on Timeline as we continue to share important information and discuss social issues that would help someone out there. Let's continue to advocate for critical changes on issues affecting our world today. And together, amplify messages that prefer answers to burning questions. Our journey continues as we create awareness and promote shifts in health matters and other social issues that will alleviate personal and communal struggles, guided by international laws and best practices. Join me on Timeline exactly 7 p.m. every Friday on Hude Network's YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, and turn on the notification button. You can become an agent of positive change by dropping your comments in any of our episodes as a contributor or as a professional. Join the conversation respectfully.
Welcome back to Hidawa, and now we're being joined by Jennifer Kizito, who has worked in the humanitarian and development space for some time and has ample knowledge on psychology. And she will be helping us discuss and talk about issues that keep girls out of school and how we can find a way through it. A big welcome to you, Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for joining
Hello,
us.
Blessing. Hello, Jennifer. It's nice to be here again.
Nice to have you again. The last time was so enlightening, and of course, we just saw the need to bring you back to talk about these issues again. Anyways, let's go straight to the issue on ground. We're talking on girl child education, and I don't know this disparity. We're all girls. We were girls. We are now ladies. We're women. But then there's a big disparity when it comes to girls receiving education and boys receiving education worldwide, in Africa generally. But then let's use Nigeria statistics for example. We have 7.6 million girls out of school out of 10.5 million children out of school. Majority of them are girls. How did we get there? How are we here? Why are we still here, Jennifer?
Well, I think at the very core of the issue will be our upbringing, social-cultural factors and norms, values. It begins from our families, actually. The education we give to the children, males and females. We all can attest that even though we went to school, but
We did.
the education in our own family, somehow there is still a little bias to it. And in some certain areas in Nigeria, the bias is more to the extreme. We are told that boys have better advantages than girls, and all this. These are all the things that contribute to all this long gap or huge gap in the educational system when it comes to the ladies and when it comes to the guys. It's a sad thing or is a distressing thing to know that there are people actually, or ladies like us, who don't have access to education like we do. Even though we are still crying and hoping for something more better, there are people that have it worse. So this is actually a matter of concern, and it always shows that we've not actually done anything as a country as regards this issue. In some certain parts of the nation, um, there is more work to be done, actually. So That's just
Oh, well, now let's take a look at girl child education in Kenya. Well, Kenya is thriving, is doing well, trying education wise, but then still, their problem has to do with the fact that most of their girls end their schooling at primary level. So they do not proceed to the secondary level, they do not proceed to the higher institution. Imagine saying that only 18% of Kenyan women are literate. That's a big number. What do you think could be the reason for this?
it still boils down to education at the end of the day. What were they told? What were they exposed to? Even though we are looking at educating the girl child to get better, they already have a configuration. So something is already working at the back end in their mind. Now we have parents. What are they saying to their children? Even though we are parents are like, yeah, go to school and all that. Do they treat them like people that actually deserve to be better persons in the society? When they look around in the society, is there actually a place for them? You agree with me that when you watch the television, you see more male figures than the female figures when it comes to maybe politics and the rest of them. When we view all these things as ladies, there is an education, a psycho education going on in our minds. So we are seeing that, what's the point? At the end of the day,
You won't be given the
you won't be
opportunity.
given the opportunity, or you've already been taught that you already have a role, a presumed role in the family. So maybe your mom's telling you something like, at the end of the day, you just end up in the kitchen, you end up taking care of children, you're meat for breeding and all those stuff. If you're being told this consistently, you wouldn't see any need to actually further your education. So at the end of the day, you will just have to sit down. So the ambition, the passion is not there because something is going on. Like in education, the psychoeducation is going on all across Africa. It's not just about Kenya. It's not about Nigeria. It's everywhere in Africa, even most other continents. So it's just the education that is going on. What are we being told behind closed doors?
Okay, just to elaborate further, you mentioned psychoeducation a few times. Could you tell us what do you mean by psychoeducation?
Okay, when I say psychoeducation, it's just like, what do you feed your mind?
Okay.
Like, because when we talk about psycho, it has to do with your mind, your psyche, your mind, the way you think. Something informs the way we think. And it's what informs how the way we think. It's what we are taking in, what we are being told, education the society gives us, our parents, our experiences. These are all the things that form our psychoeducation as a person. These are all the things that form our mindset, our values, our beliefs. So culture also forms it. So this is when we talk about psychoeducation, we're talking about all the things that makes you believe what you believe.
Okay. Well, speaking of psychoeducation, now these girls that have been made to not go to school, some of them even go to school and they get told, they get discriminated. What are some of the like psychological things that can impact their mental space, their mental abilities?
Low self-esteem. Okay. You agree with me that most ladies, even though we're talking about education, most of us, even we that stayed here, we might know one or two persons, even though they went to school, they still have a level of low self-esteem because of the society we live in. We believe it's a men's world. So because of that, the low self-esteem. Now imagine a society where the young child or the young female child is relegated to the background. The level of low self-esteem, it will hit rock bottom actually. So they are not able to stand up for themselves because all those violence issues, domestic violence, sexual abuse, and all these things. These ladies can stand up for themselves and fight for their own rights if they are taught the right things. But when there is no education, they don't know the right things, they don't know where they should stand, they don't know that this is what I deserve, this is my right. They always feel like, okay, this way I'm always supposed to be down. I'm always supposed to be subjugated to pain. I'm meant to be kept at the background. So these are all the psychological implications. You will not want to stand for yourself, low self-esteem, lack of confidence. We're not even talking about the trauma that comes with the abuse, all the trauma that comes with domestic violence and the rest of them. So we are not talking about that yet. We are still talking about the fact that you just don't have the necessary information to actually live the basic life.
Well, thank you so much. We've hit one of the basic things that accounts for a very high number of out of school girls around Africa. That is cultural norms and lack of information.
Yeah.
Let's now talk about infrastructure, because if you ask me, it is a big deal. I mean, girls are biologically different from boys. You've stated some of the obvious differences, some traumas that they may go through, but then biologically, we're just wired differently.
Yeah.
So there is a need for special, considerations when creating, for example, washrooms, sanitation equipment in school and all of that. Unfortunately, lack of these things accounts for one of the reasons why girls are out of school, not just in Nigeria, in other parts of the world as well. What impact does this lack of adequate infrastructure have on a girl's willingness to be in school? Because it's one thing for her to be informed that she'll be in school, and it's a different ball game entirely when she goes to school and then there is no comfort. What impact does it have on her, psychology?
If I know that I'll be going to school and the adequate infrastructures are not put in place, take for example, we have PE sections, that physical training and the rest of them, physical exercise, and then you know that right after physical exercise, I'm supposed to be maybe taking a shower or changing up and all those things, and the infrastructure is not there. I don't have enough privacy for myself, and I know that this thing is compulsory in the school. It will make me think twice because um, it's not just about teaching. We are different from the male gender, and we deserve some level of privacy for ourselves. So if I get to school and the structure is not there, I'll feel somehow going back to school or going to school and meeting such situations where the washroom is not properly managed, is not enclosed enough, it doesn't have enough privacy, or there's some schools that don't even have they don't even have any infrastructure
Minimal, yeah.
at all. So some people use the bush areas and all those stuff. And human beings are human beings. And if I've been to the bush one time or been to an improper infrastructure and then I met a guy there, obviously I wouldn't want to go back. I wouldn't want to go back to that place. With most ladies, this is how most of them get abused, because they're in open spaces, they're in places where the privacy is not put in place. Most of them get sexually abused, and the more these things are not put in place, the more we have high level of abuse. So most people will prefer to stay at home instead of going to school.
All right, so now talking about infrastructure, right? Let's round this infrastructure conversation up. Now, you mentioned some places not having even the barest minimum, and then statistics show that most girls in the rural areas are the ones who have a very less tendency to go to school and stay in school. Those in the urban areas, well, there's a little difference and all of that. Do you think, and well, if you look at schools in rural areas, you see that there's a major difference, between those in rural areas and those in urban areas. Do you think that the kind of infrastructure in rural areas, apart from, of course, some cultural beliefs and family upbringing, do you think that the kind of infrastructures that is available in rural areas impedes, on the girl child's willingness to go to school? Or do you think we could say, is it safe to say that the infrastructure in the rural areas is one of the reasons why girl child in rural areas would rather go get married than go to school?
Okay, I would say it's one of the reasons. We can't actually say it's exactly the reason, because there are many factors to be considered here. So infrastructure is one of the reasons, actually. I went for an outreach to a school before, and then I was like, let me use the restroom to change. Like I needed to change to our wear. I was wearing something else. So I needed to change to our uniform for the event. I got there. So I asked one of the ladies, I was like, can you show me to your restroom? She was like, ah, auntie, you cannot go there. So I didn't want to imagine
What's it
what
is?
she's trying to tell me. I just told her, is there any way I can just change? So imagine ladies coming to school with that. They already have a mindset that as I'm getting to school, I'm not going to use the restroom from the beginning to the end of the day. So this can contribute to why a lady wouldn't want to go to school actually.
Correct, Jennifer?
All right, so now we have talked about infrastructure, we're talking about the issue. Now let's look at progress. You mentioned that, when girls are not availed educational opportunities, we see issues of poor self-esteem. So now how can psychological factors like a better self-esteem, confidence, motivation now contribute to a girl's ability to overcome these barriers?
I would like to say first of all that we need more ladies stand up for ourselves. Like I said earlier, we have more male figures out there. So because of it, ladies feel like, and most of these societies or the rural areas where um, these things happen, they don't have access to see other ladies like themselves come out and be at the top of their games. They don't see the reason. They only see maybe the males around doing the stuff, being the ones carrying the banner. So we should have more ladies actually get involved in rural activities. Let them see you at the forefront. It helps their psychological education. They know that this thing is possible. I can be better. I think we can actually do that. Like ladies should actually stand up. We shouldn't just be out there, just be in the urban area somewhere all day and just when we have outreaches in different communities, it's still the guys that go there and wave their flags during elections and the rest of them, and they're like, that's how it is. So we should have more ladies actually. It helps with psychoeducation. They know that this is more this is possible. They might not have access to TV to see people like Ukonjiwela, Chimbamanda, Diche, and the rest of them, Michelle Obama. They might not do that. But when they see physically people move from the urban areas to the rural areas and they see people like themselves talk to them, they'll be motivated to do better for themselves. So this actually is a point we should actually look at and help them build their confidence.
All right, are you still talking?
No, you can go on.
All right, so we've talked of issues that girls could help themselves get better with. Yeah, well, infrastructure not really theirs to deal with, but then when it comes to psychoeducation, like you said, we've talked of ways to improve it. Let's talk of something that is beyond the control of girls or their parents. Let's talk of insecurity. It's a big one because, it has been from time immemorial. As at what year now? Was it 2014? Over 200 girls were abducted from their school in Chibok, Borno State. These girls accepted to go to school. These girls, beyond every other barrier, chose that we will stay in school. We want to be better. We will be in school. But in the process of trying to get better, they get abducted. Well, we've already said that as we speak, not all of them are back. But that's not enough. Just recently, over 287 children, well, that combines both girls and boys, including their teachers, were taken. Tell me, how will they even survive where they are taken to? And let's say they survive and they get back to the society. How do they get reintegrated? What efforts will it take them or the government or people around them to convince such people again that education is good for you? Or even if they know that education is good for them, what would they do to ensure that these people are, reintegrated back into the education system? Because it's one thing for them to start school and then face such challenges beyond their control. And then it's another different thing for you to be able to, tell them that, yeah, go back there. Go back there. This education is important. Is education more important than their lives? So how do we go about this?
Okay, there's a term in psychology, learned helplessness.
Okay.
I think this would be the exact term for ladies who go into situations like that, kidnap and the rest of them. They get to a point where they don't want, they just know that they can't be helped.
Yeah.
So they get to that point where, let me not even try at all. Do you understand? And this is the kind of emotions these ladies come back with as they come back from all these kidnapping scenes and the rest of them. Yeah. They learn to be helpless. They just know that school is not for me.
Yeah.
They just learn that no matter what you do in this nation, things are just the way it is. Let me not just try at all. And apart from them also, let's not forget those that were not kidnapped. They also get to this stage too, where they just know that I shouldn't even try at all because I can get to school and I'll be abducted and I won't come back again. So I think the government, this is where we have to sit up very, very seriously because it doesn't make sense if we just bring them back and just drop them, give them to their families. Then what? Do we reintroduce them back to school? If eventually we force them and give them a school uniform and textbooks to get back to school, what is the kind of mindset they are going back to school with? They are going back with a demoralized mindset. They are going back with a beaten down mindset. They won't be thinking that actually I can do something with my life. In fact, they'll be living in fear because we just mentioned that a couple of days ago, there was still kidnappings happening. So how would they go back to school comfortably? Imagine if you were kidnapped with the Chibok girls and then you went back to school and you're kidnapped again. That's a very serious issue.
Yeah. Honestly, I can't imagine.
So we need to look at the security systems. I would advise that in communities like that, where the security systems are not really, where these kidnappings are very prevalent, we should have better security. Every school should actually have maybe the military deployed. This will give them, this least they can do, this will give them a sense of security as they go to school. It's true that they might not be able to match the whole power of the people coming to kidnap, but the level of defense will give them a mental stability. So the government to also provide a rehabilitation center for these ladies or children or people that come back from being kidnapped, where they will be educated again. Where they'll be educated, they'll they need to be taken from the society. You don't just dump them in, you don't just throw them in and expect them to just live life like that. It's not possible. They are going in with a mindset, a defeated mindset. We don't even know what happened to them there. Most of them were raped. They're coming back with trauma. So they need to actually be isolated for some time. And proper care, mental care, physical care should be given to them. So this is what I advise actually. Centers, rehabilitation centers should be established across all the states. And then the necessary tools, equipment, professionals should be employed in order to bring positive results.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for this wonderful session. I believe that someone out there has, learned a skill or two to, cope. And of course, I hope the government hear us. I hope the government hear us and give us what is expected. Give these girls who seem helpless, the maximum security needed. Because, of course, you mentioned security, but then, of course, at the forefront of this lack of security is also infrastructure. If the school was, fully fenced and all of that, maybe penetrating into these places may be a little difficult. So thank you so much for joining us. Okay, now we're going to a very short break. When we come back, we'll take a look at what key players in the humanitarian and development industry have to say about girl-child education. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Hude. Wow, we just finished having a very good conversation with Jennifer Kizito, and she explained the impact, psychological impact, girls being out of school has on their general well-being. And of course, we talked on the impact of insecurity and other issues like infrastructure on the girl, and how the girl child can scale through all of these barriers and become successful in school. Well, now we take a quick look at what industries, the humanitarian and development industry, key players there have to say about girl child education. Let's take a look. Okay, from the UNICEF, we have no girl should be left behind. We must help every child learn the foundational skills they need to succeed in school and in life. This is absolutely true.
Yeah.
No girl should be left behind, be it the girl in the rural area, be it the girl in the urban area. Every girl needs to be encouraged to be in school. Every girl needs to be encouraged of the need to be in school, and provisions need to be made to ensure that when these girls are willing to go and they are eventually in school, they will be safe and stay in school. Jennifer.
We say charity begins at home, but then I also feel like most of, the learning starts from, it also happens in school.
Yes.
And like the UNICEF mentioned, they learn their foundational skills in school. If girls are not availed the opportunity to go to school, how then, do they now get the foundational skills they need to succeed in life? Which is why it is very important that inclusivity is very, is enforced in terms of education. Boys and girls should be able to access school regardless of whatever issues that they are facing.
Exactly. We should be able to bridge this gap.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't see goal 4 of the SDG being achieved by 2030. I see it being achieved, and I also see the 4.5 being greatly achieved because we need to eliminate this gender disparity between boys and girls in school.
Yeah.
The world is going to be better if we have everyone educated, not just a particular gender.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that we do better as regards this. Let's move on.
Education is important for girls because an educated girl can help her community, says Noria 12, who lives in a camp for internally displaced people in Ethiopia. We must get every child's learning back on track. #LetMeLearn. Now, it's simply what, we've been saying. Education is really important. And now this Noria girl is from someone that has been affected by insecurity in her country.
Of course, being in a displaced people.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
And insecurity goes beyond just taking lives. We're looking at infrastructures being, being destroyed. We're looking at people not being able to go to school for a long time. But now you see a girl that is in camp is telling you people that education is very important.
Despite the barrier, she's still willing to, face it. So the government should do better.
Yeah.
I mean, should do better in ensuring that these girls are safe when they go to school. Because trust me, I believe that if girls are educated, the society will be a very much better place to live in.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see what the World Health Organization has to say about this issue of out of school girls. Dr. Tedros met Norway Prime Minister Solberg on eve of G20 summit, discussing women and girls empowerment through education and health advances. Women empowerment, girls empowerment can be greatly achieved through education.
Yeah.
Educating a girl is like empowering her. And an empowered girl is a 20 times more empowered society, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Not just educationally, but also health-wise. The World Health Organization saying that there's a need for girls' empowerment through education and health advances, I feel is a way, is a headway that we're making, and we should sustain such efforts.
Summits like this, initiatives like the AGILE Foundation I mentioned, even the Let Girls Learn, these things send a message, not just to girls, but to everybody in particular, that girls' education is very important. Because for, the Prime Minister, as well as, very important people of, the world coming together to discuss why girls should progress with their education, it means that it is not something that should be shoved to the back. It is very important that girls are sent to school. It is very important that they are also, giving the best form of education. We don't want people going to school and stopping at primary education. We're looking at furthering your education till whenever you feel like, okay, this is, in fact, not whenever I feel, because then they stop at where they have been ingrained to the best.
So, at the primary level, whenever I feel like, okay, I feel like stopping in primary school.
To the best form of education possible for anybody. That is what should happen.
All right, let's move on.
Let's look at what UNICEF has to say. They said, I will have a sweet future one day. and I need to be at school to secure it. Guinea 11 is Tari refugee camp, Jordan. Getting every child, including every girl, back into the classroom is vital. No child should be denied the right to learn and the chance of a better future. The chance of a better future rests in the ability of children, of girls being able to access education.
Yeah.
Education fosters dreams. Education helps you dream bigger, dream better. The fact that they are not going to school and the fact that they are being ingrained that, okay, now you're not going to school, the next part you should be in your husband's home or should be making children, is already a flaw in itself. Girls should be able to access education and also be given the chance to dream bigger and better for themselves.
Indeed, everyone should be given the opportunity, girls inclusive. Every gender should be given the opportunity to be in school. But then this disparity between that of boys and girls is a problem, and we need to bridge the gap. Let's take a look at a final one from key players. Okay, we have UNICEF. When girls are out of school, they are at an increased risk of child labor, violence, and early marriage. Every girl belongs in the classroom now. I couldn't say this better because this is it. If you're not in school, if a girl is not in school, you're opening room for the girl to be at a very, very increased rate of a lot of negative vices. Child labor, rape, abuse, different things, and also early marriage. Because if a girl is educated, she'll be able to dream better, know better things, and be well informed. But keeping girls out of school is not it, and it's not going to make the world a better place.
Yeah. We're looking at the fact that most of these girls are not in school. In fact, children are not in school. It's not like they are being put in healthy environments next, because school should be the healthy environment.
Yes.
And they are put in situations. I think we were reading the Kenyan story and we saw, or Kasai Central, we saw that.
DR Congo.
Yeah, that these people the teenage pregnancy was high. We're looking at, girls not being able to go to school and then being forced into early marriages, being forced into situations that are not beneficial to them. Every girl belongs in the classroom. Every girl child should be availed equal access to education. The SDG goal says that, government people are saying that, the UNICEF are saying that, the WHO, they are saying that. So why then should we still be having this type of conversation?
Why then should we still be having these conversations? Well, girls can be willing. We can do our best to educate girls. We can do our best to inform girls and make them willing to go into school. Yeah. But when girls are in school, has the government done everything to ensure that they stay in school through securing their safety and making sure that everything they need infrastructure-wise is available for them? This is a question we need to answer. And I'm hoping that the next time we answer this question, we have better figures, not saying 7.6 million girls are out of school in a number of 10.5 million children out of school. This number is highly, highly unacceptable.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Jennifer. It's been an informing session today. And I hope that these conversations have helped light up the path of some people and key players that need to do more to ensure that these gender gaps are closed. Yeah. Jennifer?
Yeah, true, because girl child education, empowering girls already has like a lot of long-lasting impact, in the economy in the world. We've been talking about Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, we're talking about Chimamanda, like our guest mentioned. But then empowering girls you're already building a community, because girls go on to teach their children that education is important for them. We're breaking down these barriers, because most of these cultural practices, it goes way beyond before we're born, and you cannot just talk to them and tell them stop it. We have to break down years and years of ingraining people that girl children should not be in school. So I think we really need to do a lot in that aspect.
All right, thank you so much. This is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of Hude Hour. Seated right beside me has been
Jennifer Egansi.
And I am Blessing Dagin. And sure to join us next time, and same here on the Hude Network.